Hey everybody, it's EJ from iDesign.com, and today I'm going to be showing you the easiest way to rig the traditional way. We're talking with joints and weights and controls and all that good stuff using Mixamo and the brand new Mixamo control rig that was added to Cinema 4D R21. Let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so here we are in Cinema 4D, and here is our character that we want to rig up. Now, what we need to do first is prepare this rig. So whatever kind of rig, whatever kind of character you have, there's some important things you need to set up first before you can get it up and running with Mixamo, because Mixamo has a preferred way of working with characters, okay? So the first thing is you need to have your character in this T pose, or like the scarecrow pose, with the arms out at either side, like you're gonna go out and hug someone, and the thumbs facing forward. Another thing is you want to have your character sitting at 0, 0, 0, so centered in your viewport, okay? And you're also going to want to make sure that your feet are planted right on the ground. So you don't want to have your character kind of intersecting the floor, because that's going to cause some problems in Mixamo. So just make sure that your feet are not, going through the floor, planted on the floor, and that's basically it as far as the character goes. Okay, now you can have separate head, all that stuff, or one complete mesh. So you can see that this character, this is actually a Mixamo character that I downloaded from Mixamo, and I'll actually show you how you can download this yourself. But we have a bunch of separate objects, and that's totally fine. Mixamo can handle that. You can even have like a separated head, separated arms, legs, all that good stuff. So one important thing to note about materials, if you have default like Beckman reflections and stuff like that, that is not going to translate over to Mixamo, okay? So there's a certain step you need to take to maintain any reflectance or color information in your materials that you apply to your character. So what you're gonna have to do is kind of throw it back to the past, and instead of using the new reflectance kind of channels that we've been accustomed to in the past few versions of Cinema 4D, we actually need to go back again to the past and go and use Reflection Legacy. Okay, so you can see I have that already set up, and if you want, for now, you're gonna not want to load it up here because it's not going to be recognized by Mixamo. It's not going to maintain your material. But if you load it up in the layer mask here and just load up a Fresnel, so I'll just clear this out and just do this manually. So by default, this is what it looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and grab Fresnel, and then here you can adjust the overall amount, and you can see that it's actually controlling this slider too of that reflectance. You're getting that real world reflection fall off with the Fresnel there. Okay, so with that all set up, it's basically all you need to worry about here as far as textures go. Just remember, keep it in Legacy, keep it old school as far as the materials go. And then what we're going to be ready to do now is to export a file that can be recognized by Mixamo. Now, if we go to File, go to Export, the two file formats that Mixamo likes the most is OBJ and FBX. Okay, so there's OBJ. But I found that FBX saves and retains a lot more information. So if I go ahead and go and choose FBX export, one of the things we're going to do is, if you have subdivision surfaces, which I actually don't right now, but if you do have it in your scene, you're going to want to make sure you turn on subdivision surface so it actually maintains that. All right, another thing you want to pay attention to is make sure that textures and materials and embed textures are in there. So this is, we're just using color channels here, but if you actually had a JPEG texture or something like that, you want to make sure that you're embedding that. And as far as everything else, we are all good. Usually the default settings outside of this subdivision surface, you don't have to worry about. I think by default subdivision surface, you need to check that on. But one very important step, and this is kind of similar to, if you want to save a, an Illustrator file out and import it into Cinema 4D as splines, you need to save as an older Illustrator version, where there's something similar like that in this FBX export as far as working with Mixamo. You need to go back to an older version. And I believe the version that you need to go back to is all the way back to 2013 using the 7.3. If you don't do this correctly, Mixamo will actually give you an error and then show you a dialog box that'll say like, hey, check this out. Here's how to set up your file and all that good stuff. So if you need to troubleshoot, Mixamo has really great troubleshooting guides. But so let's save at 7.3, and we're going to hit OK, and then just choose wherever you want to save it. And let's just save it here, okay? And that's going to save out your FBX file. Now we are ready to go ahead and jump into Mixamo here. Right, so Mixamo got bought out by Adobe a few years ago. Unfortunately, as far as I know, they are no longer updating it, which kind of stinks. So go bug Adobe about that. Tell them that we love Mixamo. We want some freaking updates. Okay, so go bug them about that. But anyways, Mixamo comes free with your Creative Cloud subscription, which is really awesome. So you just go to Mixamo.com and you just sign in using your Creative Cloud sign-in, and you can either browse characters, which is a bunch of different characters here that you can download, and you can see there's my little XSpot that I had that I just changed the colors on that I just showed you in Cinema 4D, but you can download all these other kind of characters here, okay? And I'll just X out of that. Basically, all you got to do at that point is just download, okay? So we got the characters here, and we have the animations. Now, you'll notice that right now we have the T-pose. I don't know what, by default, what might be there. I think sometimes it's like a dancing one, which is always fun. The dancing pose, the dancing animations are just great. But if you want to actually use one of these characters in here like I did, what you want to do is go to the character you want to use, go to animations, and here we have this search bar. Just search for T-pose, and you can use this little scarecrow guy, okay? And you can adjust all these little, posture sliders, which is really awesome. So you can go ahead and download this, and you'll be ready to go, okay? And this will actually include the joints with it, so you don't actually have to, go through the steps of exporting anything out if you want to use one of these preset character rigs here, okay? But again, I have a character that I changed the colors on and everything, so instead of using the character that's already here, you can actually upload a character. So whatever character you make and export it out of Cinema 4D, you can actually upload here too. So let's just go to Upload Character, and we're going to select that FBX file that I just showed you how I saved out there. And here we go, there's my T-pose right there that I just saved out. And what it's going to do is it's going to upload, it's going to process, okay? So we can just, wait a moment, and I can just ask you, how's your day going? And you'll say, fine, and I'll say, that's great. And here we go. That was great conversation. But now what we do is make sure that this is orientated right. If this is upside down or something, you can use the rotation, all this good stuff. But typically, if you set everything up inside of Cinema 4D, like I showed you, having everything centered and all that good stuff, you should be fine to go, and this should be fine. So next thing we're going to do is just hit the next button, and here's where we can place all of the markers. Okay, so it's very self-explanatory. We're going to put the chin where the chin is. We got this really nice, in the upper right corner, the little zoom there, so we can get the wrists right there and get really precise. Let's get the elbows in there. Again, really precise, that upper corner there. It's always good to reference that just to get really nice precision there. And then we got the knees right about there, and then the crotchal region, which we'll place right about there, okay? So once we have all that set up, the only thing we have to mess with now is this standard skeleton. This is basically how many fingers do you have? Do you have a character that's wearing like a mitten, or do you have a more cartoony characters that you don't want to rig the fingers? You can use this little oven mitt version, the 3-chain, all this good stuff, and actually have this character that has full-on 5 fingers all separated and ready to go, because again, I am using one of the preset Mixamo characters, so we'll be able to utilize the fully rigged fingers. So what we're going to do is just go and use the standard skeleton and then hit next. And then this is where the magic happens. All the hamsters are running really fast on the Mixamo servers, and there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. Basically what it's doing is it's taking those markers that we placed in 2D, in a flat 2D plane, and it's, extrapolating, is that extrapolating? Yeah, I have time to mess up words while we're kind of just waiting here. But it's extrapolating all that information and applying it to your 3D rig. So once we're done with the processing and the Mixamo hamsters are done spinning their wheels, we're dumped to this screen, and this is basically to, if I just click and drag here, I can actually, orbit around here. This is where you want to check to make sure your rig is all good. And we can go ahead and just zoom in here by clicking and dragging in here. can use the pan tool, click and drag, and you're just kind of making sure that everything looks all right. You know, even the fingers look really great. They're bending really awesomely. So it looks like I placed the markers pretty well. Okay, so again, this Mixamo rig is really, really great for humanoid figures. I've had mixed results with more cartoonish kind of figures, and I'll show you that. I'll show you that right now, actually. So here's my little link, and you can see that it's not as smooth as that character that I just showed. We got some really wonky stuff going on here, some really just weird stuff going on that, you know, if you want to actually fix this and do some weight painting, knock yourself out, put on your Bob Ross afro and do some weight painting. But, you know, it's a lot of manual process. Sometimes, you know, it's hit and miss with these more cartoony characters, okay? But for these type of characters, these traditional bipeds, it's great. As I'm on the subject of talking bipeds, one thing Mixamo does not do is quadrupeds, okay? So you need, you know, your traditional head, torso, and arms and all that good stuff. If you're wanting to, you know, rig up a Kirby or something like that, it's going to be a little rough. Okay, so let's go ahead. Everything looks good. We're going to hit next. This is going to dump us into our T-pose because that's actually what we had selected. But we all know we want to grab some dancing here. So let's go ahead and we'll just X out of the T-pose and we'll get the Samba dancing, see how that looks. Looks perfect because, again, we're using the model that is actually being used in all of these little previews here, but you can get the booty shaking hip hop dancing kind of thing going on. But for each of these dancing poses, if you want to do dancing or any kind of animations, we have all these little, or Mixamo has all these, we have, like I work for Mixamo. Mixamo has all of these sliders to change like the energy, like how fast this this dancing is. Maybe this character she had a lot of coffee, so she's just really amped up, and even the overdrive, that speeds things up even more. We also have character arm space, where if you have very big, bulky arms or big, bulky chest, sometimes you can have intersections. So you can see if I bring this way down, we're going to get intersected with the torso. And then you can also choose a different amount of total frame. So all of these rigs kind of, they loop very nicely, at least most of them. But you can also just, you know, especially if they're walks or dances, but, you know, the stand up, that's not going to loop. You know, that's just you're standing up. But for dancing, but for walking, you can, this loops, or you can, you know, extend this. So a lot of really great stuff in the little features, all these little sliders for each of these individual poses and stuff like that. Okay. So, but again, we're not going to even worry about any of these preset animations. Let's just say we want to animate from scratch. So what we're going to do is we just want a fully rigged character with the T-pose, because that's the, you know, the starting position that you actually want to start rigging and animating from. Okay. And this is what the pose that works best with the Mixamo control rig, again, that was introduced in R21. So let's go ahead. I'm going to download this character. Again, we can adjust the posture if we want to, but I'll just leave that at 90. We'll download this. All of these default settings are fine. I'm going to go ahead and download, and it's going to then dump out another FBX. And we can just go ahead and jump back into Cinema 4D and open that. So we'll go to Open Project. This will be my downloads folder, so we'll just double click that. And everything by default is great here. You really don't have to worry about any of that. We'll hit OK, and you'll see that we have this, all these joints, okay? No animation, because again, this is just a typical T-pose. And then we have our objects, our geometry with the skin deformers. So again, we're rigging traditionally with skin deformers and weight tags, okay? You can see all the weighting coming from all these joints. And then here's all of our joints. There's a lot of joints going on here. But one thing you're going to notice is that my character came in very shiny. So while some of the things kind of came in okay, and we still have, if I double click on one of my materials here, you can see that the color came through. We just have to adjust the reflectance. Now, one thing you're going to see is that I can't actually access any of these options here. And one of the weird things is that when you import an FBX from Mixamo, it actually creates a take, okay? And that's kind of why I can't access anything. So what you can do is if you actually exported out an animation and you delete this Mixamo take, it's going to delete the animation of your character. Okay, so you don't want to do that. So instead, just go ahead and just click on the override, the auto override, auto take, and here we can go in and actually be able to adjust all this stuff here. So you can see my color is still intact. I'm gonna have to fuzz around with some of these settings here. Like we need to, you can see that they defaulted, the specular and reflection defaulted to 100%, even though we had it down to, about 20 or something like that. But that's fairly easy stuff, going into the reflection, adding back your roughness and all that good stuff. So it's kind of a pain, but not that much of a pain, because at least our colors and everything are still intact there. So that's all well and good. We got our joints, but we want to set this up so we can actually, animate this. How can I actually animate this? I have no controllers. If you're familiar with rigging at all, you have little null controllers that you can click in the viewport and move all your objects. And that's exactly where the Mixamo control rig, again, introduced in R21. And again, if you don't have R21, I'm going to show you another option. Actually, I'll just show it right now, that if you don't have it, let's go to Chrome. And this is what's this RH Character Tools gives you a whole setup that actually creates all of these controllers for you. So if you're not on R21 yet, and you still want to use Mixamo to, wait and rig up your character with joints, you can use this, download this. It's on sale right now, so really great stuff. This person who made this is just a really great, talented character person. Go ahead, buy that, and you'll be good to go. But if you do have R21, lucky you, we can access the character, the Mixamo character control rig. So where you're going to find that is in your character menu. We're going to grab character, and we're going to go to our object tab, and it's by default, it's set to the Mixamo control rig. Okay, so all we need to do is start building out our components. So we got the root, we got the pelvis, and what we're going to do is we're going to click the leg, but instead of just clicking the button, we're going to hold the command and the shift key down, because what that's going to do is create both legs at once and still keep us in this little view here. And then what I'm going to do is just hold down the command key now and create the arms, and then create some hands. So that's going to create the left and right arms if you hold the command or control key down. Okay, so now we got all of our components. What we're going to do is go to adjust, and what you're going to see is that it automatically snapped to where our current joints are here. You can see that. Okay, so now what we can do is go into animate, and if we go and we click on this rig and move this around, you're going to see that we don't have a relationship built between this control rig, this character control rig, and our Mixamo, our object in our Mixamo joint. So what we need to do is go to the root. We're going to go to the control tab, and we're just going to go ahead and say retarget all. And what that's going to do is, if you look at any of your little components here, you're going to see we just built a relationship automatically by clicking that button to retarget all of the joints. You can see here the left leg, all these joints are now populated, and now we can use these controls here to then move everything around. But again, you're not seeing any of the object move. You're seeing the joints move, but not our actual geometry. And we have to do one more step to actually build the relationship between not only the character object and the joints, but the character object and the actual object. So we're going to say we're going to need to transfer some weights here. So we built the relationship between the joints. We need to build the relationship between the weights. So what we're going to do is just drag and drop all the objects with weight tags on them into this weight tags field here, and then just click transfer weights, and you'll see that something snapped there a little bit. You'll see, voila, check this out. We got our fully rigged character with all of those controllers that before the Mixamo control rig, you'd either have to build manually or get something like those RH character tools that I just showed prior. And again, you're seeing that the Mixamo joints are just kind of stationary, so we actually don't need these anymore visible at least. We still need them in the scene, but we can just hide them, okay? And here's where we can just, you know, start animating these little controls here. And one of the coolest things about the Mixamo control rig is if you notice, depending on which component you click on, as long as you're in the controls tab, you have all these little sliders that adjust different things. Now, again, some of these things might not work perfectly. You might have to go in and, again, weight paint and smooth things out. So there is a manual process to this, but you have like a little foot roll there right at the bottom. And then if you go to the hands, one thing that's really cool is I can select both the hands and you can like adjust the spread of the fingers, okay? And adjust the curls of some of these fingers as well. So we can get a fist going really easily. And again, that does not look ideal, so nothing is perfect, but Mixamo gets you pretty dang close. Again, you'll have to weight paint, and weight painting is just the absolute worst part of rigging, is just making sure everything looks good. And that's the manual process. Again, that's the downside of rigging. So it can get you so far, and then you'll need to know something about weighting and rigging and all that good stuff to get it looking perfect. Again, no weight painting in Bendy Limbs rig, just calling that out again here. So this is really great if, you know, when you use Mixamo, and I see a lot of people using Mixamo and, you know, mixing animations together using motion tracks and all that good stuff. And I'll actually leave some good tutorials about motion tracks and all that good stuff in the description of the video, so be sure to check that out. But here's where you can, you know, just animate your own character your own way. Again, if Mixamo only has so many animations, they have a lot of animations, but again, thing is, they're not updating them. Okay, so again, bug Adobe about that. But this actually came in pretty well. Sometimes you might have to, you know, weight paint a little by shift double clicking and, you know, kind of going in here and seeing what's controlling what. And again, this is kind of like the more manual process of traditional rigging. And for a character like this, again, Mixamo does an amazing job. But for more cartoony characters, again, I can show you the Link version where we just got all this stuff going on and the weights look really bad. And you'll probably have to go in there and really get into some, you know, a lot of heavy lifting as far as fixing this. And again, if you have like rubber hose cartoony style of characters, maybe they don't have heads or anything like that, then that's where I really want to push the Bendy Limbs and make you aware of that as well, because as easy as it was to use Mixamo and the Mixamo control rig, it's also equally as easy to use the Bendy Limbs rig to be able to rig up a more rubber hosey kind of character where you don't want these sharp bends here. You want a more smooth arcing kind of bend like that. But again, for just these type of traditional bipeds, it is quite amazing to be able to rig up something this easy. And R21 also came with way better auto weighting as well. So that's a thing that's really cool. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, animate your own booty shaking here, okay? So that's always a thing. All right, so hopefully that blew your mind if you weren't familiar with Mixamo about how you can actually rig up a character super easily, again, using the traditional route. Now, if you're too overwhelmed with weight painting and all the manual stuff you have to do with traditional rigs, be sure to check out Bendy Limbs Rig for Cinema 4D. Removes all of that complexity, and you can rig up and animate more stylized cartoonish characters with those rubber hose limbs, so check that out. But if you have any questions about anything I covered in this tutorial, please leave a question in the comment section below. And if you make anything using the Mixamo rigs, I know R21 isn't quite out yet, but if you make anything with this rig, be sure to share it with me. I love seeing all your Mixamo characters and Mixamo animations. Get into those dancing animations. They're a lot of fun. But if you like this tutorial, please, I appreciate if you like this tutorial, like this video. And if you like what I'm doing here, please subscribe, hit the bell so you can get notified every time I do a new tutorial. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys so very much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.